Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is the morning of technology glitches. So we'll just have to see what happens as far as our screen is going. So you might have to actually use your hymn books today for the hymns. But other than that, we'll do our very best. So welcome to each of you, and welcome to the people that are joining us on YouTube at an actual time or later on this week. So we're very happy to have you with us. The announcements that I have are that if you ordered a name tag, they should be at the back ready for pickup. And also that we have a kids can camp, August 26th and 30th. And Lynn and I were talking about it earlier and saying, yes, we'll announce it because there might be some grandparents that are babysitting that might like to have their kids involved in a camp, and they had a great time last year. So that's an announcement for the end of August. And I believe that the land acknowledgement is in the program, and would you join me, please, in reading it so we can all learn to pronounce those words. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples, and that our community is adjacent to the Cheyenne-Kahaka Mohawk community of Tyendinaga. We give thanks for their continuing stewardship of the land and commit ourselves to the work of reconciliation with Indigenous people. Thank you.
Please be seated. Please join me in the bulletin for the call to worship. With all creation,
you feed my soul.
With the sun and the moon,
You feed my soul.
with the wind and the rain,
You feed my soul.
with all the stars of the sky,
You feed my soul.
with all the creatures of the land and sea and air.
You feed my soul.
With these friends on my left and on my right,
You feed my soul, and I grow strong in heart and mind and spirit.
I will now light the Christ candle to remind us all that the presence of Christ is here with us now and always. Please join together in your hymn books for the hymn that we're going to sing, All Things Bright and Beautiful,
has a really special anthem for us today in honor of what we're going to be talking about.
All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire, and some just clap their hands or pause or anything they got now.
Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom with the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus. And goes on to the big guy do, and the old cow just goes moo. Moo.
All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire, and some just clap their hands or pause or anything they got now. The dogs and the cats, they take up the middle where the honeybee hums, and the cricket fiddles, the donkey prays, and the pony neighs, and the old coyote howls. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire, and some just clap their hands or pause or anything they got now. Listen to the top where the little birds sing on the melodies with the high notes ringing, but the hoot owl hollers over everything, and the jaybird disagrees. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire, and some just clap their hands or pause or anything they got now. It's a simple song of living sung everywhere, where the ox and the fox and the grizzly bear, the grumpy alligator and the hawk above, the sly raccoon and the turtle dove. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, some sing out loud on the telephone wire, and some just clap their hands or pause or anything they got.
Good morning. This morning's reading is from Genesis 1, verses 20 to 25. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let the birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky." So God created the great creatures of the sea and every living thing with which the water teems and that moves about in it according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on earth." And there was evening and there was morning, the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. So God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. This is the word of the Lord.
You might have guessed by now that we're going to talk about animals. Is it working? That's as far as it'll go? Okay. You might have wondered why we started a little bit late, because Harry and I were here yesterday, and I added a whole bunch of slides of pictures of each program, and it worked. But it's not working this morning. So you're just going to have to imagine what I'm talking about. So the very first thing I'm going to tell you about is that I'm talking about dog guides. That's a term that is coined by the Lions Foundation of Canada, dog guides. You can get it? Okay. Maybe it is going to work. Are you going to change it? Okay. All right. See, we even have a little magic clicker that could change it too, and it worked too. Will it? Okay. So the Lions Foundation is one organization that trains service dogs, which is the generic term for working dogs, for people with disabilities. And so this is the mission of the Lions Foundation of Canada. I'm sure that every other organization has missions as well, not exactly the same words. So this one is a picture of Mikey, this dog. This is how big he was when we got him. Now our job is a foster family, so we get the puppies when they're between 8 and 10 weeks old, and our job, number one job, housebreak, and after that, take them everywhere we go, get them used to anything that they might encounter when they're working. So we look for loud noises, we look for busy places, we'll go to a parade and watch it and watch the horses and everything go by, because we don't know what the dog's going to be required to do when it's a working dog. So the more exposure we get to the more different things that are in our world, the better for the dog. So at about 14 or 16 months old, and I have to tell you that he's 12 months old the end of this week. So at 14 to 16, we're going to get that awful phone call that says he has to go back to college and start learning his job. And so he will be chosen to any one of the 7 programs. So what I'm going to do right now is walk you through the 7 programs in the order we actually started them. This is the Lions Foundation of Canada Dog Guides, and you might know that one of the primary thing that Lions started with was anything to do with vision. So preservation of vision, helping people that are blind. So that very first service dog that we have, it is working. Okay. One's for the blind. And most people know what they do. They work mostly outside the house. So the person in the house needs to know where their things are. And if you have a friend that's blind, never offer to help clean up their house. Because you'll put things away where they make sense to you, but for them it's going to be lost. Because they have to do all that for themselves. They don't mind if you sweep. But so the visually impaired people use their dog mostly outside. When a dog has a harness on like that, you should ignore it. There was a time when people wouldn't even tell the name of their dog because they didn't want people across the street calling out, "Hey, Mikey," and distracting the dog. Now that's not so strict, but you should ignore it. You shouldn't talk to it. You definitely shouldn't pat it. I do have a friend who's blind, and she had a dog, and it was a lovely yellow lab, and we'd go out together, and somebody would say, "May I please pat your dog?" And she'd say, "No, please don't, it's working." She's blind. They bend down and pat it anyway. I haven't ever actually done it, but I had the inclination to sometimes say, "Shall I give you an application for a hearing ear dog?" Because they just ignored because she was blind. So the second program that we have, is it me or you? Okay, second one, sorry, is for hearing impaired people. Now this is the exact opposite of a dog for someone who's blind. This one works mostly in the home. So they alert, sorry. They work mostly in the home. They they alert the person to sounds in their environment. So if it's a mom and the baby's crying, they will alert, and they alert by coming up and, if they're a little dog, they'll jump up or they'll pat them. They'll just give them a paw. And then the person has to know to follow them. So dog alerts, go to the sound. Might be the microwave beeping, it might be a phone, it might be the doorbell, it might be their baby crying. Whatever, they follow the dog to wherever the dog is leading them. If the dog alerts and runs around and around and around in a circle, that says something's wrong, that's an alarm, we get out of here. So they don't, if there was a fire alarm or something like that, that's how that person would say, we got to get out of here. And that was the second program that we have. One of the interesting things that clients say about having a hearing ear dog, you can't notice on his jacket, but on some of the others you'll notice, it has what it is. It says hearing dog. It says hearing dog guide. They like that because when they're out and somebody calls their name, they can't hear it. And so sometimes their people, friends maybe even kind of, well, what's wrong with them? And then with the dog, it says they've got a hearing dog. They're not just ignoring me. Now this is special to Harry and me right now because King, the black one we've had here for the last year and a bit, is now learning to be a service dog. And we call that one service, even though genetically generally they're all really service dogs. But this one is for someone with a mobility issue. So someone usually in a wheelchair or in a walker, the dog is trained to help. And this is actually the longest training for any of the dogs. King went back after Christmas last year, and he will maybe graduate just before Christmas, so almost a year of training, because they're individually trained for the person who needs them. So the staff goes to wherever they live across Canada, looks at their environment, looks at what their ability is, what things they need, and then goes back and starts training the dog to do those things. You might recall, if you were here, that one Sunday we had King back because his trainer was busy with new clients getting matched with dogs, and we had him, and we were out at a conference, and it was pouring rain, and I was trying to get in quickly, and all of a sudden I wasn't quite quick enough for King, and he went up and bopped the door. I wasn't supposed to let him do that because I wasn't training him, but he knew that. He knew, there's that round thing, that'll open the door and we'll get out of here. So that's some of the things. They can pick up things that are dropped, which is really helpful. They can also, sometimes there are people who cannot cross arms, their own arms. If they can't, then they can't help themselves get their jacket off or their sweater off or something like that. If that's an issue, the dog will be trained to pull the sleeve so that the person can pull their own arm out. Now, you and I might not think that's a lot of independence, but for somebody who can't do it, it's huge. I can get my coat off if I need to, if I want to. So they pick up things. They help with the laundry. We put things like, we'd call it a tie, but a tug on the laundry basket, and they can tug the laundry basket over to the washing machine. And then the person can put the things in the washing machine. And then they can open the fridge. There's a tug on the fridge, and maybe get out a bottle of water or something. So as I say, it's individually trained for what the person needs. This is a diabetic alert dog. Now, that one is really quite amazing in that the people that have type 1 and a form of type 2 diabetes called hypoglycemic unawareness, their blood sugars drop and they don't know it. So it can be very dangerous for them if their blood sugars are dropping and they don't know it. They can actually end up going unconscious. So the dog has this wonderful sense of smell, like up to 5,000 times better than ours. and he can smell it. And so the dog will alert the person, the same as with the hearing dog, come and bump them or paw them, and then that lets the person know there's something wrong. And they will get their kit. The dog is even trained to get their kit if they're really getting very woozy. The dog will actually go and get the kit and bring it to the person. If the person actually goes unconscious, they'll bark and go and get help for them. So the dog is really, really valuable, and many of the people that with that type of diabetes have been nervous of even going out on their own because they just didn't know. The very first diabetic alert dogs were given to a pair of identical twin girls, 12 years old, who both had that form of diabetes. And the parents had never slept through the night. One or other was up every hour checking because their blood sugars dropped so fast and so unexpectedly. They got the dog, and I heard the dad talking at a meeting about what a difference it made, and he said, well, at first I wasn't going to let the dog take over my job. I just didn't trust it. He said, but the first time the dog alerted to a low that I missed, I said, I guess I can go to sleep now. And those girls have had that dog now. They're in their early 20s, and the dog's about ready to retire, and it's still working for them. And they are both doing welding as a career. But that makes it a huge difference in the lives of that whole family. Okay, this is similar to diabetic alert. This is a seizure response dog. Now, the diabetic alert dog can smell that there's a problem coming. The seizure response dog doesn't get any of that. They are taught to respond to a seizure. So to keep the person safe, get help if it's needed, keep people away. They react, and if the person is actually in a very serious seizure, there's an alarm system that they know how to activate so that they'll get help. Now, having said that, we cannot teach them to sense a seizure, but many people tell us that a person with a seizure disorder often has an aura or an odor, and sometimes the dogs actually teach themselves. I should get her to sit down. I should get him to be in a better place right now. We can't teach that. They're taught to react to the seizure by getting help. But it does happen that sometimes dogs are a lot smarter than we think they are. All right, this is Harry's and my absolute favorite program to talk about because this little girl has autism. Now, I say it's our favorite because one of our very special dogs went to be the Autism Assist dog for a little girl named Olivia. And I have permission to share all this information from her parents, so it's okay. They live in Saskatchewan. Olivia has Down syndrome and autism. She's also nonverbal. And she was a big flight risk because she got overwhelmed so fast. So she never had been in the assembly in the school because the lights and all the people just overwhelmed her. She has a little brother. The whole family had never been all out together shopping or to a restaurant. Mom or dad would stay home with Olivia, and then brother Eric and the other parent would go and do whatever, shopping and all that sort of stuff. So Harry and I got to meet Dad when Dad went and took the training at the school for the Autism Assist dog, and we raised Ivan. And Ivan's a big black standard poodle. And the dad couldn't say enough about the hope that they had for what Ivan could do for them. because just before he had come off to school, because we take everybody right to Oakville and put them up and train them for the 2 or 3 weeks that they need their training to learn what the dog knows. Just before he had come for the training, she had run and almost made it into the creek nearby. She was only 7 years old. So you can imagine the panic for the family, all looking for this little girl that had just bolted for some reason, and you never know for sure why. So they went home the end of November, the year with Ivan. Ivan and Olivia started working together. Her working with him was feeding him and getting used to being attached to him and walking around the house and around the yard. Because the autism assist dogs are tethered, very much like Mikey's tethered to me right now. And then there's an adult there with the leash and holding it. So that when they're out walking around, if something overwhelms the child and they go to bolt, the dog is taught, and the adult will say, down, and the dog drops down. Well, there aren't too many 7 and 8-year-olds that are going to pull a 50-pound dog after them when they want to run. And so what generally happens is the child can't go because there's a 50-pound stone there. And so they turn around and they realize it's their dog stopping them. And they quite often just collapse down on their dog. And then the autism dogs are taught to kind of roll over and give what's called pressure. Just that's like a cuddle. Just pressure, and not always, nothing's ever always, right? But often the child will just settle right back down because it's their dog with them. Olivia was a little girl that didn't sleep well at night. They had locks on the outside of her bedroom door so that she wouldn't run and they not hear her. After 2 weeks with Ivan, and Ivan's allowed to sleep on the bed with her, she was sleeping through the night. So he went home with them the end of October or November, the first year. She started to go to school with him after the March break. And there's a lovely video you can actually see. I wish I had the reference always with me, of her walking around her school. It was on CTV in Saskatchewan, just like she owns it. She's got this dog, and she's there, and she goes to the gym and everything now. In the December following, they all went to Disneyland, and Ivan and Olivia went on rides together. That gives me goosebumps every time I tell that, because you can imagine the difference that's made in their family. From never going out as a family to the 4 of them being able to go with Ivan to Disneyland and share. Now, Olivia's almost, I think she just turned 14, so Ivan's getting older and ready to retire, but he has done such an amazing job with her, because the other thing that autism dogs do for the kids, most kids that have autism are pretty isolated. Other kids don't come and look for them and ask them to play very often because they're not sure what's going to happen. But most kids like dogs. So a child with an autism dog is kind of like a magnet. And the really neat thing about that is that Olivia has the control of whether you're allowed to pat her dog or not. So if they ask to pat, she can nod yes, or she can nod, and you'd know if she was saying no. So that way, she draws other kids to her. And Olivia's a very lucky little girl because she's developed some beautiful friendships that have taken her right through elementary and into the beginning of high school. And those kids still come around. And she's actually an awesome basketball player, believe it or not. She doesn't know the game, she doesn't know how to do it, but she can get that ball in the hoop more times than most people. So those are our 6 service dog programs. Those dogs have a legal right to go anywhere with the person, except for one place, and that's kitchens. You can't go into a kitchen in a restaurant or something like that. So you can't be a worker in a kitchen and have a service dog. But everywhere else, the dog has a legal right to go with their person. And it is a human rights issue. The government regulations are a little bit behind the law right now, so there's no standard certification for a service dog. Most people are understanding of it. Our dogs all wear that red jacket that you saw in a couple of them, and it says right on. And all of us, including Mikey, I always carry a card that says he belongs to the Lions Foundation and he's a service dog in training. But we have one more really new and exciting program. And that is our facility support dog. This dog is not a certified service dog, but it's got wonderful training to serve many, many people. Because what it is it's trained to, it lives with a staff member of the facility. So it's not it doesn't live with a policeman in this case, but it lives with somebody that works for the Halton Police. And she takes it to work every day with her. And then it goes wherever it's needed to help anybody that's in a traumatic situation. So it might go to court with a young person or somebody who has to give some really scary testimony. And they're not allowed to have their own support worker with them, but they can have the dog. And the dog can have its head on their lap, and they can pat it, and it will bring them down and let them be able to think and be calmer. The lady that was talking to us from the Halton Police was telling us that the police officers actually use the dogs at the end of the day frequently. If they've had a really tough call, a fire or a really bad accident or something, they'll come and just sit on the ground and pat the dog and let the dog absorb some of the stress that they've encountered that day. So that is really a thumbnail sketch. There's so many, I'm sure there's other questions, and I'm happy to answer them downstairs after at any time. But service dogs are one of God's greatest gifts to the family, to the whole family, and in many cases to the whole community, because it allows people some independence and security if they have a disability. So it's really important for us to know a couple of rules. One is, and we break it here a lot, but anyway, that's okay. He's surviving. If they have their jacket on, you should ignore them. You shouldn't talk to them or pat them. If you see a service dog ever with a jacket on, but without a person, if it's kind of running or looking, but it has a leash attached to it, follow it. That probably means that it couldn't get help where it needed it, and so it's come to look for somebody else that'll help. So if you ever see a service dog with a jacket on, particularly, it'll say what it is, and a leash, follow that dog, because you may be able to help somebody that's not got the help that they had. So I have one last little story. I have a story for every one of the programs, but I didn't think you wanted to stay that long. But this is a new one. Recently, there was a contest to name for some people to name puppies, and they won the contest. Some people could apply to be part of this contest, because usually the puppies are named by staff, and all the puppies in the same litter start with the same letter of the alphabet. So all of Mikey's litter mates, their names all start with M. But this was different. This was an opportunity for people who wanted to take it to come up with the name of a hero, and they would name the puppies in the litter these hero names. So people came up with things like Terry for Terry Fox and everything else, but they had to justify the name. So I had an opportunity to choose a group that would name a dog. So I chose a Lions Club in Peterborough for young adults. And I said, you can choose the name for a puppy. And then I get it back. And it says they want to nominate the dog, the hero dog, to be called Tango. And I looked at it and went, okay, I'm not sure I know any heroes by the name of Tango. But remember, they had to justify it. So here's their justification. Their justification was, Tango may not come to mind as the name of a hero, but it should be. The tango is a partner dance where two bodies move together in sync. Like the tango, a dog guide works in sync with their partner, assisting and guiding their everyday activities and providing a level of independence their partner may not otherwise have had. They won the contest. Thank you. And now let's join in again. We're going to celebrate animals by singing Let All Things Now Living. Voices United 242.
Let all things now living, a song of thanksgiving to God our Creator, triumphantly raise, who fashioned and made us, protected and stayed us, by guiding us on to the end of our days. God's banners aurora us, your light goes before us, a pillar of fire shining forth in the night, till shadows have vanished and darkness is banished, as forward we travel from light into light. By law God enforces the stars in their courses, and sun in its orbit obediently shine. The hills and the mountains, the rivers and fountains, the depths of the ocean proclaim God divine. We too should be voicing our love and rejoicing with glad adoration. A song let us raise, till all things now living unite in thanksgiving to God in the highest. Hosanna and praise.
Gathered as a community of faith, let us pray. For peace throughout the world, in places where there is war, political unrest, terrorist threats, racially incited violence. For children who bear witness to atrocities and experience lifelong trauma, especially those who have lost parents, siblings, and other loved ones. For those who tend to others, support workers in their chosen careers, family caregivers who face burnout from daily duties, those who provide comfort with hearts and hands, cheerful greetings, encouraging words, wagging tails. Help us to remember that kind deeds can take others from despair to delight. For the athletes of the Olympic Games, for the tears of joy and disappointment, for those who have been inspired by their success, determination, and bravery, for all who have trained and dreamed and whose dreams have not come true, and all who have supported them. For windy days filled with cloud and sunshine, ubiquitous rabbits, the season of tomatoes and corn, days slowly getting shorter. May we always be grateful for the natural world that God has created for us. For all who yearn for more in their lives, who suffer physical challenges, are lonely, depressed, homeless, jobless, who live in darkness, hoping for light. We also pray for those who await the kingdom of God and for those who have died. We offer these prayers and those heavy in our hearts to the one who taught us to say together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
I don't like going up and downstairs. Let us celebrate this worship service and sing of the wonderful love that is surrounding us and that we can take out from here.
Tender
I think I take the candle out before we sing. I'm gonna mark that down, sorry. I extinguished this candle, but the love that was with us here surrounds us as we go out. We take Christ with us. Go now in peace.
There's